Everyone, welcome to Wings Monthly, episode 7. Blimmin' hell, how quick has that gone? Bear with me, please. I'll just add in the two guests tonight, and let's get cracking. Good evening, Jim. And we just add Sam in. Bear with me. He's just sent a message, and then we can get cracking. Hopefully, he can join with no problems. But I'm not counting my chickens just yet. Bear with. Let me try and add him again. Sorry, Sam, if you're watching. Oh, he's joined. There he is. Well, I've got a black square in the bottom of my screen, but that's good enough. Sam, can you hear us? There you are. That's better.
Yeah, there we go.
Good evening, lads. Good evening, everyone. Well, thanks for joining. As I already said, this is episode 7 of Wings Monthly, which is crazy. It feels like I just started it the other day. So I just see Greg's joined as well. Evening, Greg. As always, if anyone's got any questions, there is a question bubble at the bottom of the page. Please use that or just write in the comments. I'll try and write down any of the questions for either of the lads tonight, or even myself if you feel the urge to ask me something random. So welcome to episode 7. As I said, I've got two people on who are good mates of mine, I'm pleased to say tonight, and that's Jim, who's in the bottom corner, and Sam. Before we go through the agenda, Jim, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's James, or as Mark said, Jim, and I'm the air display organiser at the Shuttleworth collection, which is based at our Warden Aerodrome in Bedfordshire in England. So we maintain and operate over 40 vintage aircraft, ranging from the world's oldest airworthy aircraft, the 1909 Blériot, First World War aircraft such as the Bristol Fighter, SE-5, sort of Camel, into the interwar years with a lot of aircraft that not many people know about. They're very rare and unique, such as the Hawker Tomtit, the Parnell Alf. Then up to Second World War, so Spitfire Mark 5, Sea Hurricane, your Gladiators, and then finally the oldest or youngest aircraft we've got is a Percival Provost. So as well as that, we have a number of vintage cars in the collection that also run. So yeah, so it's a working museum. We do a number of events throughout the year from May till October. So this year we've done 7 air, or will be doing 7 air shows. So yeah, it's an all happening place. A lot goes on, and as I say, the word museum, we don't like to really use it because we're all fully functioning, we're all operating, they all work. So yeah, it's the Shuttleworth collection basically. So, yeah.
Cheers, Jim. So look, you would have noticed when he said his name in different formats, he laughed, because I actually referred to him as James in the practice. So I don't think I've ever referred to him as James before. No. I almost went fully professional. And I think even Jim's wife was shocked by, like, well, his name's James. So he never uses it. But no, thanks for joining tonight, Jim. Obviously, we'll get into more about what you do in a minute. And the Godlike Genius Award for 2024 is probably heading your way for what you're doing. But before we get on to that, Sam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. My name's Sam. I've been around the DWC Facebook page for a number of years now, doing these live videos. I'm an avid collector of aviation archive, corgi, and hobby master, which is how I sort of got into it. I'm a bit of an aviation buff as well. I love going to air shows. Old Warden as well. I've been down a few times. So yeah, always pleased to see the collection, and especially to see it flying as well. I'm actually quite local to sort of Shuttleworth, like the biggest way, like about maybe 25 minutes from me, so it's just sort of on my doorstep. So yeah, really looking forward to this live, hearing a bit from Jim, and also about what's going on in the diecast world as well. So yeah, cheers, boys.
Lovely. Cheers, Sam. Friend, I've just noticed something on the comments there, that there's some feedback on some of the feed. I mean, it seems to be coming through fine to me. If there is, just let us know in the comments if the sound. Sam sounds like he's in the caves in Afghanistan. Can you just clarify that you're not in the caves in Afghanistan plotting some sort of jihadist attack?
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not in fact Bin Laden. Let me just remove my. Take the head.
That's better.
Okay,
that's much better.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
That's spot on.
I'm no longer being hunted by Navy SEALs, which is always good. So yeah,
much clearer. Thanks, Sam. So just going to run through the agenda quickly tonight. So obviously we've done the intros, which is always a good way to get started. We're then going to go on to Jim and talk about all things Shuttleworth, some of what he's doing down there, and some of the amazing work I think Jim's been doing down there. I don't want to blow too much smoke up his backside too soon, but I'm sure anybody who's been to any of the shows this year or seen the lineups will absolutely 100% agree that it's always a brilliant venue, brilliant lineup, but I think it's moved forward significantly this year. But like I said, we'll let Jim do a lot of the talking in a minute and explain that. We're then going to go through some of the new Corgi releases. So we've got 5 to sort of back through. We've obviously got the TSR2 from Riyadh, the B26, which is divided opinion in a lot of ways, but is a brilliant model. I think just needs a bit of fettling. And of course, you've got the P47, Lysander, and B25 due out. We're going to go through the December Hobby Master poster, which I added onto the stories, which is well worth looking at. Some good bits on there. We're going to talk about a quite surprising release. I don't think Dwayne's on yet, but that Dwayne is involved in India that could come to fruition. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. We're going to just a brief chat around our latest additions to the collections between the three of us. If you want to pitch in, guys, on the comments, please do, and we'll give you a little shout out, of course. Of course, we've got the Corgi September to December catalogue coming out, which will be early September, which ties in beautifully. We'll obviously a little bit of work, a little bit of talk around that, which ties in beautifully, of course, to the Q&A, which I'll be doing live with Michael and hopefully David, and I'll talk about how that's going to work and the part that you guys, the collectors, can play in that. And then, of course, a little bit of a thank you at the end, but I'll get to that when we get to the end. So. Good evening, Kieran. Good to see Kieran's come on. Who's obviously checking out your performance, Jim. So more nerves. So yeah, we're going to go over to Jim. Like, I'm really grateful for Jim coming on online tonight. I've known Jim for a number of years. He was actually the official carer of Rafe when I took him to Last Flying Legends. So I can blame him for when he wandered off and wandered into the utmost part of Duxford, and I had to send Big Elliot to go looking for him. But no, obviously I know Jim for a number of years, and he's relatively recently joined our warden. But I'll let Jim talk about that. So, Jim, tell us about your role. Tell us how you got into it, and what it sort of entails.
So, yeah, I joined the Shuttleworth collection in 2019, basically as support for the engineering department. So basically stores, so ordering parts, doing some admin work for them. And I did that for about 4 years. And then the display organizer at the time was retiring, and I've been going to air shows since I was a kid. So Duxford, Old Warden, and through my as I've got older, become an adult, I've gone to many air shows across Europe, and I've done Chino in America. Yeah, I got asked basically if I was interested in potentially taking on the role as the new display organizer at Shuttleworth. Obviously, at first it was a bit of a shock, but I suppose it did make sense because there wasn't really anyone else within the company who sort of had that interest. Well, they have an interest, but they didn't go to air shows, any other air shows, and they just didn't seem interested in doing it. So I got asked, and yeah, I said yes to it. So last year I was basically shadowing the former air display organizer up until about, I think it was August or July, and then he retired. I took on essentially the second half of the season. All the aircraft were already, or like the aircraft and the themes were already sorted for last year, so I didn't really have much of an input in terms of that. Whereas this year, I've started right from scratch. So the shows this year, which we've done 7 of, well, we'll be doing 7 of. Yeah, I've arranged with the collection aircraft plus visiting aircraft, and I essentially just put them in a nice order, formations. Yeah, I just put it in a nice order and try and make it work for the public to enjoy. So yeah, that's how I got into it. My background, nothing to do with aviation at all. It was prior to the Shuttleworth, it was maintenance and facilities. So yeah, it's been a bit of a surreal journey, really, going from that into this. But I've enjoyed it. It's been a lot to learn. I've been enjoying putting combinations of aircraft together that you very rarely see anywhere else in the world. It's such a unique and special place, Shuttleworth. Not only in terms of the collection aircraft themselves, there's such a wide variety of aircraft, as I said, from the world's oldest airworthy aircraft, the Blériot, right up to the 1950s, and then adding in visiting aircraft, often acts that certainly this year I've tried to book in acts that have never been seen there before, haven't for a while, to try and freshen it up. So yeah, it's been, as I say, it's been a journey, but I've very much enjoyed it so far, and I'm looking forward to already tackling next year. So yeah.
I mean, look, from my point of view, and I feel awful saying this, I've never managed to get there. I know you've been badgering me literally every week about getting to our warden. I don't blame Rafe, I'll just blame him. He's not watching, so I can blame him. I mean, it was inconvenient that England managed to make a final on the day of the last one I was due to go to. But I mean, I think I rather would have gone to the air show, to be fair, after watching that performance. But I think the bit from me is just looking on the socials and how people are reacting to the shows, and you're talking like significant people within the industry and what they're saying about the shows and the lineups that you're putting on, and it's nothing but positivity, and it's brilliant to see. The fact that obviously I've known you for a long time, I consider you a mate, and to see you smashing it out the park is brilliant. And it's great to also, I think, dare I say, some other venues could do with a more enlightening look at what they're doing and how they're presenting shows. Because I guess with Shuttleworth, I mean, with the exception of, say, old Rhinebeck in New York, isn't it? And there's nothing like it in the world, is there?
No, certainly with the variety of aircraft, as I say, ranging from the early 1900s to the 1950s, there's nothing quite like it in the world. And we're very fortunate to have a strong team of engineers who maintain these aircraft. I mean, they look after over 40 aircraft, maintain them, repair them. They work their socks off, and not only that, but we have an army of volunteers who also help us for air shows, and we really couldn't do without them as well. So it really is. It's almost like a family at Shuttleworth. Everyone gets mucks in. And it's such a good vibe. It's a great place to go for an air show, because it's very relaxed compared to other places. And the venue as for a display is also absolutely perfect. In terms of photography, you've got the sun. The sun comes right behind you, so it's perfect for photos. You get quite close to the action compared to other places, because the display line is not as big as other venues in the UK or in the world. So yeah, it's a truly magical place.
What would be, I guess for me, what would be your particular highlight thus far? Because obviously there's still a bit to come, and announcing RN201, the Silver Spitfire, for those who don't know what that is. What's your highlight, would you say, of the 2024 season? I know it's really difficult to pick because you put on banging show after banging show.
Yeah, so I think if I could possibly pick 2. One of them was at the very first show we did this year, which was the Best of British Air show, was booking the Fury, the Hawker Fury 1, the biplane from Historic Aircraft Collection. That, it first flew, I think, in 2012, and it had never been to Shuttleworth, and you couldn't have a more fitting aircraft to Shuttleworth than that. And booking that really was quite something, and seeing it over Shuttleworth, it was a magical moment. Probably the other event, as an event, probably for me this year, was Festival Flight, which was our biggest event we've done. I don't know how many years. I can't remember the last time Shuttleworth did a multi-day event. So that was essentially 3 days, with 2 days being full-on flying days. And it was a lot of work. But in the morning, I think on the Saturday, I had to almost pinch myself at seeing the Warbird lineup on the line. Hawk 75, P51D Miss Helen. The French Warbirds, so the Mark 14 and the Corsair from the Ferté. It really was unreal. It's something I never thought would ever happen at Shuttleworth. So they're probably my two highlights so far. This weekend, so we've got an air show this weekend. It's our family air show. As Mark said, we've got the Spitfire 14 RN201 coming, which has only, since coming back to the country, has only displayed at Duxford twice, I think. So this will be its first sort of first outing away from Duxford, which should be great. And the other one is the Norwegian Historic Squadron's Vampire will be also joining us this weekend and forming up with the Comet, with our de Havilland Comet, DH88 Comet, in a formation that has never ever been seen before. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to them as well this weekend. So
amazing. I mean, look, there must be a lot of. I mean, look, again, sort of thank you for coming here. I know you're working long hours, especially in the run up to show weekend. So it's a bit of a coup for us, to be fair, but it's also a testament to the work you're doing and giving you a little bit more exposure. Not that you need it, because you obviously, it's clear what you're doing is speaking for itself. But I'd encourage anyone, and that includes me, when I finally get the bloody time to go down there and get there. And I'm sure once I come once, you probably never, you'll never see the back of me after that. And it's just good to be back out on the circuit and doing shows this year. But still going back to you mentioned the Festival of Flight, and obviously it's a tricky year this year as well, and that can't go into. You've got to take that into account, because obviously with a tragic event to the BBMF, and of course the Canadian anniversary with the Reds and the Typhoon sort of to and fro between the North American continent. I imagine it's posed a few little problems to get replacements in, isn't it?
I think, yeah. I mean, certainly shows later. So the Reds were going to. I think they're going to their North American tours at the end of this month or something.
Yeah, into August. Yeah, they missed Claxton. I know that much. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's obviously very difficult for airshow organisers in those months, because they're not going to get the big hitters like the Reds, because they, in reality, the RAF stuff and Spitfires essentially are the big hitters for an air show. So we hadn't had the Reds, I think, since 2019. I'm sure someone can correct me on that. Looking at you, Greg, if you're still on it. And the Typhoon, I think, was 2018. So we were very fortunate to get them this year, because it's not as simple as just contacting the RAF to get their aircraft to an air show. You have to apply for them, and obviously they get endless applications from various different events. So we were very lucky to get them this year. So fingers crossed we will also get them next year as well. So it's not been too difficult, because there was a fair few aircraft that I already had on my list for this year that I knew had never been here before or hadn't been here for a long time. So that played into my hands quite nicely. Obviously next year it's looking at keeping it fresh again and looking to other aircraft. So I'll keep an eye on the scene and what comes up and what have you. So it's just essentially keeping it fresh. So obviously with the collection aircraft, we fly them at every show, but not all the same aircraft. So we rest some of the aircraft during the year, so not all of them fly during the season. We rest them. So for example, this year we've rested the Blackburn B2, the Southern Martlet, the English Electric Wren, which is, I'm sure many people have never heard of, because they are like one of a kind. You won't see them anywhere else in the world. So they've been rested this year, and then next year they'll more than likely fly, and we'll rest some other aircraft. So we fly all the collection, well, most of the collection aircraft throughout the year, along with the visiting aircraft, which add to that. So that's how we do it. As I say, we've been quite lucky this year because I've looked at aircraft that we've either never had here before or have not had for a long time. So yeah.
That's really, really, really good. With the red arrows, I imagine there's like if and when they'd be secured, it would be more of a fly past rather than an actual full show because of that would play into costings. Rather just to get them to do a flyover depending on where they are in the area. I imagine it'd be quite a hard one to, as you say, to secure that, and it hasn't been done since 2019. But yeah, they are certainly a massive highlight wherever they sort of show up. One thing I did want to ask with the older aircraft, do you need to have like the most perfect conditions, like say to get the Blériot out or the Sopwith?
So particularly with the Edwardian aircraft, as we call them, so like the Blériot, the Blackburn monoplane, which is the oldest British Airways aircraft, Bristol Boxkite, Avro triplane, Deperdussin, they have to have near on perfect conditions. So basically we don't need any wind to fly them. Basically, it has to be. So this year we've actually only flown the Avro triplane, which was at the last show. The others haven't flown at any of the shows, which is a bit frustrating because I think when people think about Shuttleworth, it's a lot of the older aircraft they tend to think about. So it can be frustrating at times, but when the conditions are perfect and we do fly them, it really is a magical moment. The First World Wars, again, depending on the conditions, we try and keep, we fly them if we can. The weather's right, we'll fly them, the wind and all that. But if it's not, then we won't risk it at all because they are very precious. They're rare and unique. The SE5 is an original SE5. It saw action during the First World War and shot down a Fokker D7 on the day before Armistice. So it's a really rare and unique aircraft. We treat them with respect, and if the conditions are not right, we won't fly them.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely understandable. Really, you have to, as much as people, think, like you say, think of Shuttleworth as like your classic, like the place for World War One. It is in the end. You have to balance the interests of entertainment and preservation, don't you? So yeah, no, spot on, mate.
Yeah, just a couple of people who have joined. I've just seen pop up. So if anybody does have a question, please put it in the comments or use the question bubble at the bottom there. I'm sure if Jim is able to answer it, he'll answer it. Obviously, I don't want to put him under too much pressure, so nothing around financials, please. No, I've just welcome to Mike, who's our World War One expert, who will, I don't know I think he's probably got an ASBO from Old Warden in case he tries making love to any of the World War One aircraft, and of course Andy from Lofty's Hobbies, who's come on there as well. But a question for you, Jim, without putting yourself in an issue here, what would be your dream aircraft to display Old Warden? One that you've yet to approach, but one that obviously I don't want you to say anything that might compromise that approach either. So it's a bit of a tricky one.
So I think if an unrealistic one is obviously a Mosquito. That would just
at
be
the moment. At the moment,
that would be the pinnacle. In terms of this country, I've always loved the sort of early Second World War fighters. So when I got the Hawk 75 from the fighter collection this year, I was absolutely chuffed. Something like that, maybe the P40C or the P36, I'd love to get as a pair together at Shuttleworth, because they would just look so good going around the classic dog-leg bend at Shuttleworth together. But one day, if we could get a mosquito in this country, that probably would be the ultimate. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, I know you've got the people's mosquito, which is. Are there any other restorations going on in
the
UK?
Biggin Hill one down in Ardmore, which is due, I believe, 2026 was penciled. Whether it's on route for that, I don't know, because obviously aircraft take a little bit longer, don't they? But that is the next one out of Ardmore in New Zealand, and it's due for Peter Monk at Biggin Hill. So we do have potential for 2 projects. I would imagine that's miles ahead of the people's mosquito one, although I know they've got the moulds now and they're starting the woodwork for the fuselage. I think it's Retro Chacanera doing it, Jim, isn't it?
I'm not too sure. I think it is. I think they are actually thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of noise around having they've got the moulds, haven't they? And they're good to go now. So I think they're pressing ahead. But obviously Ardmore down in New Zealand has every single bit of tooling and whatnot, and they've just obviously knocked out the one for Rod Lewis, which, funny enough, flew yesterday. Its first US flight. So look, fingers crossed. I mean, I remember the mosquito. I mean, we lost it in '96, wasn't it, at Barton? I remember that as a kid and just absolutely loving life. If only Kermit Weeks hadn't have taken his one and let it rot to bits in Florida and Oshkosh or wherever it is. But he'll get it rebuilt one day in 2182 when he's just a brain in a jar being pushed around in a wheelchair. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not, but Stav. So, yeah, so I mean, I completely agree with that. But look, sort of going back to Kieran Naughtily has asked you, where I'll go back to it. What's your favourite die-cast model you've got, Jimmers?
That's a tough one. So I haven't actually mentioned that. I do collect. Well, I used to collect a lot, but since I got married and moved out and have a house now, which was in the last 3 years, I've stepped back a fair bit. So the last model I did buy was the first Bristol Fighter that they did. So I've always liked the Hawker biplanes that Corgi did in the 172 second. I've always had a soft spot for that, and the Gladiators, to be fair.
Under pressure.
Yeah, I tell you what, I really like the first Lightning. The first Lightning they did with the is it 148 scale? I can't remember.
The Tenga, was it RF Tenga? That's the
silver. That's 74 Squadron. Is it 74 Squadron? Yeah, Tiger Squadron. I love that model. I've got it in my living room. It's absolutely stunning. So that's definitely up there. So possibly that, to be honest, even though I'm more of a 172 collector.
Yeah, I've actually got it.
Oh, he's off.
Yeah,
it's a brilliant model. I remember getting that for about 70 quid off Amazon, and I'm sure you've heard me say before, I'm never do 148. Yeah, bloody. I end up getting a Phantom. I've got a Spitfires. And I thought, Jesus Christ, it's a beautiful model. And that's again, getting back to when Corgi do things right and smash things out of the park. It's a beautiful model. It really is. It really is. But that was a bit of a left field one you come out with there, Jim. I didn't expect that one to come out, but you're absolutely spot on. It is a great model.
Yeah, I have a display cabinet in the living room. I'm sure my wife absolutely loves that.
Of course she does.
But so they're all 172nd in there, and then I have the Lightning on its own away in another area of the living room, and I just see it up there. It looks absolutely stunning. So that might well be my favourite one. But as I say, I do have a real soft spot for the Hawker biplanes and the Gladiator that Corgi have made as well.
Jamie has said the silver one was the second release. I don't think it was. I think it was silver, Bruntingthorpe grey, and then the green grey. I'm right there, Sam, am I?
No, I think the grey one was the first release. Then it was this jobby, and then the camo.
Somebody needs to check that if someone can have access to Google. I'm going with the silver one first. I'm
Grey Bruntingthorpe, because I think I do have the box under my bed somewhere, but I'm pretty sure the
AA
serial
numbers,
number for this one is 02. Yeah, that's right, because the Bruntingthorpe, like Jamie said, the Great Bruntingthorpe was the first, because the Bruntingthorpe had the cannons underneath, whereas this one and the camo one don't. So yeah, I'm pretty sure. And I thought the Bruntingthorpe was a strange one to go for right off the bat. I thought they do something a bit different. But
makes sense, the
there we
Bruntingthorpe,
go.
because then they would have LiDAR scanned it, and then obviously as a thank you produced it. I honestly believe the silver one was first. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I thought it was as well, but apologies.
No, I'm sticking to that. Otherwise, I'm going to look like right nutty. But maybe I was wrong. But got another couple of bits as well. Mike Lowe said would love to see a SPAD 13 at Old Warden. I mean, obviously, it's not. Yeah. I guess it's not. The Shuttleworth aren't into massively expanding the collection, are they? But is there any in the UK SPAD 13? That's a SPAD. I don't know what model it was.
There's a SPAD at Laferte, which I would love to get at Old Warden one day, but I'll be perfectly honest. I don't think it would happen.
Unless it's trucked. Yeah, a bit of long old flight. You wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, it would have to be trucked over, as you say. So but never say never. But for now, I don't think that'll be happening, sadly. But I totally agree. I'd love to see a SPAD at Shuttleworth.
Mitchell Gooding has said would love to see the Hawker Tempest from Sywell Shuttleworth. Well, needs to be fixed. Was it not initially booked this year for the first show?
Yeah, so it was booked for both days of festival flight, and it was it was announced quite early. Late last year, we announced it. So yeah, it's still very much on my hit list. So when that's fully up and running and in good shape, yes, it will be on the radar. So yeah, keep an eye out.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've got no more questions for now. So if any more do come up, obviously I'll pull back to Jim. But he's been talking for half hour, the poor sod, and I didn't want him to be like a Gestapo interrogation. So thanks, Jim, for obviously talking about your job and what you do, which I'm sure many people really absolutely hate, the fact that you're doing a job that you really, really enjoy. But again, just to sort of emphasise, I think you're smashing it out of the park, and it's been recognised and rightly recognised for the great work you're doing, and long may it continue. And I will get to Old Warden at some point, I promise you that, and it will be this year. So it won't be this weekend because I'm away this weekend. So
you're running out of air shows.
I'm running out of air shows. I'm probably running out of time in my life as well, in all fairness. So I need to get a move on. But no, look, mate, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And we go. Kieran has said, "You'll be pleased to know, guys, none of you sound like you have a lisp." I wonder who that's saying that. But yeah, cheers, Jim. So obviously you're going to stay on for now. We're going to move on to the next bit, give you a bit of a break. Excuse me. So we're going to move on to some of the latest releases, in particular those from Corgi, before we go on to Hobby Master. So in no particular order, we're going to start at the most recent RIAT announcement, which was very, very left field, was the TSR 2. It was the fourth release, so there's only 3 ever made, for those who know. And it was in a what-if scheme and a green-grey camo. And I honestly don't think anybody would have predicted this unless you worked from within Corgi. It was a very strange release, but looking at it, it looks like it was a really, really clever release, because they've nearly sold out of the 800 or so that they plan to plan to release. So, Sam, what are your thoughts on the TSR2?
Okay, so obviously Corgi haven't done one in quite some time. The current management have taken to a bit of what we're seeing is a bit of a revival of a lot of the older tools. So you've got obviously the P47 that hasn't been around for a while. They had the Swordfish, which hadn't been done for a while. So they are in the mood of starting to resurrect a lot of these. In terms of the actual aircraft itself, the thing is, because it's a what if scheme, it's very difficult to criticise it because you don't know what it would have actually been like. Some people are saying on MH3 that no, actually it should have the smaller roundels and all over camo, or potentially it shouldn't be grey underneath. It's like, who knows, because it hasn't actually been done. What I will say is the price at 160 quid. It's quite a lot of money. Quite a lot of money, especially when you. I mean, I know it's a big lump of metal. I mean, even in 172, it's quite it's a large aircraft. Yes, however, I think to price that up with say a Lancaster or a 148 jet, I don't know. I don't know. I know obviously shipping costs are getting higher, and everything that comes with it is going up. I personally, I would, if it was £100, I probably would have bought it, but not for 160. Not in a month of Sundays. There have been some Code 3 what if schemes on the TSR2 that people have done, and are actually, if I'm being honest, slightly better than Corgi's effort, because they've included stores. It's like fuel tanks, bombs, and I think that really would have added to it. But then again, you would have to make a tooling change, and then that would have bumped the price up even more. And Jamie says it's 191.99 when announced. Yeah, that was a bit of a gaff. I saw that on the day as well, and I was like, whoa. So yeah, unexpected, interesting. I think people were maybe hoping for like maybe an F-16 or an F-35, but there's no precedent from Corgi to bring out new toolings at RIAT. It's always like surprise releases, but not new toolings. They always come at the start of the year, so I think people get their hopes up quite a bit. But I would echo what the plane modeler says. Personally, not for me, but I can see why popular with jet fans. Yeah, 100%. That everything said there, it's a really nice model. The TSR2 bot it's absolutely stunning. But for me, it's just the price, I think. But sign of the times. There we go.
Jim, anything you want to add around that in terms of what your thoughts around it are?
I totally agree with Sam. I think the TSR2 model itself is awesome, and it always has been. It always looks great. Personally, from my point of view, I probably wouldn't buy that TSR2 myself. It's very Marmite. You know, some people like that concept sort of thing, others don't. I know I've seen over the years a lot of modelers make TSR2 in camo schemes and what have you. You know, concept schemes. But for me personally, no, I'm not. I wouldn't purchase it myself, especially for that price. But equally, some people do like that sort of thing, so I can understand why it has also sold quite well. Which probably means they will maybe look at doing more in the future. So yeah, that's just that's my opinion.
I'll say this: if they brought out a 617 Squadron 1, I probably would have bought it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have hesitated, but maybe they thought that was a bit too obvious. I don't know, but if I mean, Corgi, if you're listening, but yeah, it is a bit of a strange one, like you say, and as Michael points out, a business point of view, seems strange to bring out something with only 2 or 3 possible schemes. Yeah, but I mean, if you go back in time to old Corgi, the game, the diecast game, was a lot different. The costs were a lot lower, so they could afford to bring out, maybe have a run of like 3, like they originally did with the TSR2. That wouldn't happen now. They wouldn't tool up a new TSR2 now. But there is, I mean, you see this with Hobby Master as well at the moment, with the the what if theme, if you like, with the YF23 Black Widow as well. So I think they're sort of testing the waters to see if this kind of thing is what people want to buy. I can't imagine collectors having a what if shelf, to be honest. It would kind of slot into other things. But the TSR2 story is quite an important one. I think it's one that does that generates a lot of interest, certainly in the UK. And yeah, I suspect it won't be the last one. We won't see one for maybe a number of years. But 617, please, if you're watching.
Yeah, just sort of add what you did before I go through the comments and have my sort of personal bit on it. I mean, I've just jotted some down. Obviously, 617 is one that sort of stands out, but they could do an Arctic one, a Gulf hemp coloured one, an all grey one, a black one would look pretty naughty, and maybe a sort of an all green sort of Harrier style sort of hempy green colour as well. I mean, look, the options are there. I don't think it's one for every year, but it's certainly a potential. I mean, after JC Wings led the way, didn't they, by doing Ace Combat ones, which were pretty much what ifs. And then obviously Hobby Master have jumped on the bandwagon a little bit. They did the Ukrainian scheme, didn't they, and the S16 and all them sort of bits and pieces. So there is plenty of options out there. I'll just go through the comments and I'll just sort of talk about why the bits what I really think. So Mitchell Goodin has said, personally, I don't like the TSR2. It's an ugly aircraft with a pointless scheme. 160 quid could have been better spent elsewhere. Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. Jamie McGaffigan, who's always on, he said it was 191.99 when announced and also advertised as a 148. I mean, how did that get through proofreading? I mean, that blows my mind. Andy Curtis, the plane modeler, if you haven't followed him, please do. He said, personally, not for me, but I can see why popular with jet fans. Mitchell Goodins then said, obviously, 148 buck is top of my wish list at the moment. I predicted it would have been that. Dwayne has put... yeah, I think for me, that would have been the obvious one at Ria. I thought really that was going to be that or an F-16 in 148. Dwayne, who I'm trying to add to the call, but will not let me. He just said it's like the Avro Arrow. Yeah. Mike Lowe has said, is there a big market for what-if schemes? I think there probably is, to be honest with you. But I guess in what context? Like the Ace Combat one is very popular with the younger. It's a good sort of pathway for younger model collectors to get into it. He's also said, Mike's also said, from a business point of view, it seems strange to bring out something big with only 2 or 3 possible schemes. Yeah, but that was the old Corgi. That's why they're digging it up. And there was a lot of demand for camo TSR2 on the MH3 forum. Absolutely. In terms of, anybody knows Jay Hall? Jay does a lot of tornadoes for customers. I'm trying to get him on a later show later in the year. He has done some phenomenal TSR2 schemes over the last few years, and no, sometimes I go for like 300, 400, 500 quid on eBay. And Jamie's obviously could do an RAF what if F111. Well, it was an order for the RAF, wasn't it, at one point? So look, there's so many options out there. My thoughts, I've just done some simple maths. So I've worked out £140 a piece. If Corgi managed to sell 800 of these at, say, roughly 140 quid, and sort of there or thereabouts, the retailers, of course, we know we get them cheaper. That brings in cash £112,000 from an old tooling, and it gets the cash flow going. So my thoughts, and this is, I guess, this is just putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 600. I mean, something potentially we could talk to Michael about on the Q&A further down the line. My thoughts, it was a very... Dwayne has used the term cash grab. I don't think this term cash grab is a right reflection of them. I think it's a way of raising some revenue to do something else. So if, for example, we've got a tooling that's still going to need some fettling in the 148 Tornado, which is, I think Corgi have even admitted to in their email responses, I think it's a good way of generating some cash to do that, and holding off something that will take them cash, but we might need a little bit more development, so like the 148 Buccaneer. I think it's not my cup of tea. It doesn't seem to be a lot of people's cup of tea, but I tell you something, they've shifted nearly 800 of them, so it's certainly some people's cup of tea. And remember, what suits me, what suits Sam, what suits James, what suits everybody on the watching the video, is completely different taste, right? So I think it's worked out really well for them, because they brought out a tooling that's been sitting around doing nothing, and then suddenly, bang, they've quickly shifted it through a high unit price and generated some money to reinvest, which is exactly the name of the game. Is that you think years ago when they knocked out the 3,000 runs, or even more than that at times, and then they'll have stuff stinking out the place and they'd lose money on it because they'll have to shift it at half price. This has achieved exactly what they wanted to achieve. It's blown out at full price, which makes it even more desirable in the second-hand market in a few years' time, because there's only 800 pieces of it. I think it's a very, very clever move. Not for me. If one turned up cheap down the line, probably, because it is. I love the TSR2. I think it's a beautiful aircraft. It's a what if of a what if in reality, isn't it? And it is a beautiful looking aircraft and a beautiful scheme. Look, fair play to them. I think commercially, it's a big tick. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not my bag, but I think they've done a good job of it, and it's completely left field as well. And it's got, when you release something, if it's got people talking, it's done half of the work. People are interested in it. They might be a little bit peed off it isn't a new development or something like that, but I think it's done the job for them. And fair play, it's come off. I mean, it could have been a complete disaster, because there's obviously a risk in every single model you release and every new tooling or old tooling you release, whether it will sell or stink up the space in the warehouses and then dump. They've nailed it. So fair play in my eyes, and hopefully it is, like I said, if it is for that reason to spend money and invest within the business, then I'm all for it. So look, I think it's mixed reviews from everybody, but if it's sold, it's sold, right? So job done. We're going to move on to the next one now, which I actually have to hand. And again, this has not gone without controversy. And I've done a photo review of it, which I'll bring up, and I'll do a video review of it as well. Is this beauty, the B26 Marauder, which is a B masquerading as a G, or a G masquerading as a B, whatever way you want to look at it. I'll bring it in front of the screen. I know it's not like quite HD quality in terms of what it is. I'll put it on the gear up thing. I know Jim has seen several photos of it. For me, there's the bloody join, which I'll talk about in the video in more detail. I know, Jim, you're thinking of making your first purchase in this millennium of the B26. Is it? I know you've seen all the pictures that I've sent you, and obviously the quick walkthrough video I did. What's your thoughts on it from what you've seen?
It does look good, but the fact that it's rather tail heavy, it does put me off a bit. And also, as you mentioned, the join going through the nose art is a bit of an annoying thing for me personally, and I'm sure others. But when I first heard they were doing it, as you said, I instantly thought that is something I would purchase. So I haven't done it yet. I haven't actually seen it in person either yet, so I've not made the jump yet. But despite all that, I wouldn't say I'm not going to buy it. So I probably will eventually. Yeah, and as someone's mentioned about the dodgy undercarriage, I know you were talking about that the other night, Mark, when you were fiddling with it, when you showed us some pictures. But
that's the model I was fiddling with, ladies and gentlemen, before anyone makes any assumptions.
So yeah, I do like the idea of it. It might need some, if they are to do it again, it probably does need some tweaking, but yeah, as I say, when I see it in person, I'll probably make the decision on whether I buy it or not. So yeah.
Sam, is it on your agenda?
The B26, yes. The first release, no. For me, it's not the fact that the join line itself. It's the way it kind of slices through the nose art, which I think
it's just luck.
takes away.
And I know we can move it up, you can move it down, but it's accurate to where the nose art is. I think it's just one of those things that it's just a bad bit of timing, coincidence. I mean, it smashes the Forces of Valor out of the park. It really does.
Yeah, it does. It does make me wonder, sort of, what's really going on, because if you look at the recent World War II tooling, certainly you've got the Spitfire, the Beaufort. They're all really tight. Obviously, the Tornado we're not gonna mention too much, but yeah, less said about that, the better. But what the point I'm trying to get across is, in 2024, to have a tooling with a large gap in it, it's a bit baffling, really. And then you've got the fact that it's a tail sitter. Now, Corgi obviously know this because they've included in the box. I think you can confirm this, Mark. A little plastic,
it's like a lug. Yeah, it's almost like a chess piece.
Little plastic.
It's almost like a
little plastic prop.
Yeah.
To sort of just to stand it up a little bit. So, how hard it could have been to maybe to weight up the nose, I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of it. Having said all that, the paintwork is spot on. The Bombay is really nicely detailed, more so than a lot of Bombays and a lot of other die-casts. They've really gone to town on that. So it's got its positives, but I think until the next one shows up, and I see what the nose art is saying, then that'll be my judgment call. But a lot of times when you have a first release of a new tooling, you won't, like, there'll be things that they sort of iron out later on for newer ones, and little refinements they make. So yeah, pros and cons. But yeah, I think if anyone does like it, I wouldn't say, don't buy it. It's perfect, lovely model, and I think if I had the choice between that and the Forces of Valor version, then I would go with the Corgi all day long, because for the Forces of Valor, yes, it's nice, but then you've got rubber machine guns, and it's just the paintwork's a bit rough around the edges.
Screws.
It doesn't have that sort of Corgi finesse that they like. So yeah.
So you may have noticed another little face just appeared in the bottom right now. Good evening, Dwayne. Great opportunity for you to voice your opinion on the B26 as you come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd go with Sam. Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. I think I agree the sentiment with Sam, because I think I would wait for a second release or a third release, because till they get the weight evenly distributed throughout the model, I think it would make more sense to dump that kind of money when I have a product I'm completely satisfied with.
So the bit I would add, obviously, I'm going to do a video review on this as well as a pictorial one, and I'll write it all in now. For a £120 model, which is what it retails at, I'm not going to be taking screw holes off of this and taking it apart and putting weight behind the cockpit. I won't do that, because you're going to scratch the paintwork, you can damage it, and also, for those who haven't got it, the undercarriage, because of its design and its look, is not like the B25, where it's quite a chunky sort of stem. It's very brittle. So Gary Dukes, who's over on the Facebook page, he has done a modification to this, and he's put weight behind the cockpit, because there is a hole behind the cockpit once you take the fuselage apart to put significant weight into there. He tried doing it on the engine nasals and found it was getting too much weight onto the left and right landing gear, but the front landing gear is the weakest of the lot. So it is unfortunate that when they designed it, they didn't think of putting it on its undercarriage and see where the centre of gravity was. But the basics of the model are there. It's a brilliant model. The paint scheme is amazing. Yes, obviously the Dynamite logo does go across the seam, but that's where it should be. And to try and get a smooth finish there is difficult. I do feel for Corgi, because it feels like they've created a problem, but there's also nothing they can do around that, because the seam's got to go somewhere. I don't know how they could remodel it, but I think if we can get a stronger undercarriage, and when it's built, look at a modification of a slight weight increase. It's not going to take too much to move that centre of gravity. It's more than doable. I think the model is, it's fair to say it's about 95% now. If they fix those minor things, I know there's a lot of noise around some of the more, how can I put, detailed characters, especially on MH3. So I'll use Mark as an example, or Sid Hughes, he's known. He's really passionate about his aviation, really passionate about the models and the die-cast. And I know the engine incidents, I believe, is slightly out, and it reflects the wrong model. And I get that. I can live with that, to be fair. What I can't live with is it poking into the air like this. And I also don't believe that it's poking into the air like this on the undercarriage it currently sits on. We're asking for the undercarriage to collapse as well. So I think there's a little bit of work to be done, but they've produced a good model. And like I said, it's the best B26 on the market by a country mile. So it does need work, and this is my point we've made many times before. If you're paying north of £100 for a model or a toy in many of our partners' eyes, we want it to be right. And I guess that's where the challenge goes back to them, where again, it's around Corgi just finessing it rather than completely changing it. Unlike the Tornado, which is a lot of work, but it's not beyond saving. The B26, I think, is almost at the finish line. It just needs that little bit more. But look, believe you me, guys, it's once you see the pictures of it, when I've taken on them a new backdrop, I think you agree that it's lovely. I've had a few other issues in terms of fitting landing bay doors. I didn't want to put blue tack into them. It didn't fit nicely. And I also thought Bombay was a little bit brittle for the heavy-handed among us, but it is a great model. It really is, and I think you need to see it in your hands to really appreciate it. But look, it's almost there. Let's just hope they improve on it. Let's just move on to the next three, and we quickly cover all three of these in one here because I'm conscious of time and keeping you guys into the night. So we've got three more releases due out over the coming weeks, and they're nearly all with us. So we've got the P47 Dottie May. We've got the D-Day Lysander, and of course we've got the Jungle B25, which is very similar to the previous one. Jim, do you want to go over your thoughts on all three of those releases?
So I've always thought the P47 models from Corgi have been one of their stronger models over the years. I'm not planning on getting Dottie May. That's not to say I don't want it. It's just I simply don't have the room. But I think it looks like a really nice model. And the Lysander, I think, to be fair, Corgi again have always done really well with Lysander mold. You know, I've got I've got a couple, or maybe even three now, including the Shuttleworth collection one, obviously. And I don't think they've ever made a bad Lysander, to be honest.
No, agree.
The B25 I thought was a bit of a weird one, going with that scheme, considering it's very similar to a previous one. So again, I probably wouldn't purchase that. But yeah, I think the B25 mold though is actually really nice and again strong mold from Corgi. So yeah, three good models, and two, as I say, the two schemes of the P47 and the Lysander I really like, but the B25 I don't know why they went for that scheme. I don't know if it was popular last time or not. Yeah, that's my opinion on them.
Right, before I get to Sam, just a couple of bits to pick up on the chat. George Witter said the addition of bombs on Dottie May is a great touch. I completely agree. It adds something different to the collection. It's a standard P47, and it's a flyer as well, which I absolutely love. But yeah, it just does sound a little bit different. Jamie's added, I think it was Jamie, I hope it was Jamie. It was the B25 and P47 are are available now, which is good. So I paid for the Lysander, waiting on that, and I'm waiting. Hopefully Andy Becky's on the call, who's sorting me out the other two as well. So once they sort me out, I mean, I've got to pay for them, but even still. And Mitchell's obviously said about the pins on the B26 nose undercarriage up doors are also too long. I haven't found the problem on my one. One set of undercarriage doors that fitted perfectly were the front ones. So, and Andy, the plane modeler, has said the B20, love the B25 mold. It's a cracker, but so many other versions they could have done. Yeah, I would have liked to see an Air Commando version with the white stripes down it. I think that would look pure sex. Solid nosed Canon B25. And Dwayne, yes, we are covering the HM catalogue. We're doing that after this. So if you'd watched from the start, Dwayne, and be on time at 8 o'clock, I know it's probably like 1 o'clock in the morning in India, but no excuses. On to Sam. Sam, you look like you're in the darkness, or maybe it's just my eyes going. Your thoughts on the 3 new corgis?
Oh, let's add some light to the subject,
There
shall
we go,
we?
that's better.
Better? There we go.
You look like you were in the mountains of Afghanistan now.
Yeah, I started off with the sound while I was in the caves. Now and then it went to the lighting. But so the P47, it's great to see Corgi doing one. I wasn't that enamored with the photos or the pre-pro or the CAD or whatever they had when they first announced it. Having seen pictures of the actual model itself, I think it looks rather lovely. The yellow on the cockpit is not as maybe distracting as I thought it would be. And now all I would say is let's have a Razorback,
Absolutely.
right?
I think it's due a retool,
yeah.
mate, to be honest with you. But then I would imagine the P51BC would be a better candidate to retool than the P47. If they're getting life out of the P47 now, I think the B and C, with the brilliant job they've done with the D, could be a great scheme. And an A, I'd love to see an early Apache or Allison Engine A. I think that would be pure sex. Again, Air Commando.
And on that subject as well, I think why not bring out a Corsair?
Yeah.
Because I mean whether there was a rumor that when they did the Fleet Air Arm one,
wings.
that they cut the wings, and that was a change that they couldn't sort of go back on. Who knows? Perhaps they could retool it. I certainly think it'd be really popular. But yeah, it's I get sometimes they have to do something a bit eye-catching, a bit different. But there are plenty of P47 candidates out there that would benefit from a Corgi release that they haven't yet done.
I mean, Jamie's just mentioned Nelly B. I mean, that for me is just a no-brainer. Air show performer.
Yeah, I was about to. Yeah, I was literally about to say the exact same thing. I think if you had that and you brought that to Duxford, it would sell out almost instantly.
RAF Museum Southeast Asian Command one with the green and brown. I mean, I've just made one on Code 3, which I'll show you. I'm not happy with the green and brown because it was an ammo MIG colour I used, but that is a sexy scheme, and I think that would sell like hotcakes. And again, it's an aircraft people see. Millions of people see that every year.
Yeah, no, totally. So moving on to the Lizzie, I think that's a great move by Corgi. They haven't had one, I think, since 2019 or whatever, so it's probably due another. I didn't actually know that they operated with D-Day stripes. I'd certainly never seen one with D-Day stripes before. You sort of typically think of them as all black. So it's definitely something a bit different. It looks lovely as well. The colours look fantastic. No complaints there whatsoever. So yeah, that's great. And then that leaves us with the B25, which I would sort of agree with Jim. I think because they've gone with a similar scheme to what's been done in the past. I think that when they brought out the last one, which was the solid nose strafer, I've actually got it. I've got a Betty's Dream. That's the one they did. Yeah, that was absolutely quality. Sold out, really hard to find now. But I can't really see this one doing the same. But again, not something that's to everyone's tastes, but nice enough model. I personally wouldn't have one, but I can see that if you've not got the first release, it's a pretty pretty nice one to go after.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
certainly an eye-catching scheme. I'm not entirely sure. I think with Betty's Dream being a flyer as well, I think it was modelled on the flyer. It had a real big pull for the American market as well, which I think is something Corgi really need to look at a bit more, because it's easy money. You know, the Yanks get to see air show galore compared to us in reality, and I just think, you know, rocking up at air shows with a 20 or 30 of those in the back of your bomber is easy money for those, like the Confederate Air Force. So not commemorative Air Force, so not the Confederate Air Force. I'll get in trouble. It's easy money. And I spoke to the guys with the Dakota at Sywell and put them in contact with Michael, and I hope that we can see. And the name escapes me. Jim, what was the name of the DAC at Sywell? Placid Lassie. That's it. And I was speaking to them for about half hour, and I got the business card, and I put them in contact with Corgi. So fingers crossed we get to see Placid Lassie, which is an unusual coloured DAC as well. It's slightly different to the mainstream ones. But look, I think it's an overall positive thumbs up. I mean, Dwayne, any thoughts around the P47, the Lizzie, and the B25?
No, just taking my attention to the P47. I think I might definitely get it because I don't have a D-Day Thunderbolt. I think it's a D-Day Thunderbolt, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's partial D-Day stripes, isn't it, Jim?
I can't remember now off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
I don't think it's got wing stripes. I think it's got half D-Day stripes on the fuselage.
And as far as the B25 is concerned, I think right now I feel Corgi should do a Red Bull collection.
Yes.
Because I think that's something that's really lacking. That would be like very good income for them, but also for people who are avid airshow enthusiasts for Red Bull and would resonate with the Red Bull brand. But also I would like to put in a minor retool to their B24, especially I don't know if they do it at the 100th anniversary of World War II or whatever. But I would really definitely love to see a personal transport of Winston Churchill Commando, the what do you say, the civilian variant of the B24.
Yeah, I don't know what that would entail.
One sec, I have a picture here. One sec.
I believe that's the aircraft that ferried him to Casablanca, isn't it, for the conference?
Yeah.
Okay.
Commando. So I think I would definitely like to see this one.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout, that. But then obviously there's the PBY version of the B24 as well, isn't there? Obviously the naval version. I think somebody shared that on MH3.
Privateer.
The privateer single. Yeah, that would need more of a retool because of the towel and stuff like that. But there is a blue version of the B24, and the variant escapes me. But I know somebody shared it on MH3, and it looked the absolute nuts, and really stood out. I've just got the B25, the marine version of that, and that is wow. It's one of those models when you get out of the box that makes you really go, whoa, hold a minute, and it sort of ties in with that theme as well. We will get to the Hobby Master poster in a sec, Dwayne. Just my thoughts very quickly. Pete, I'm going to get all three naturally because I mean, why not? Really happy with the P47. I know it's an old mould, and I know it's been dug up from the depth of the tooling bank, but I'm really excited to have it. A flyer, a really historic P47. Was it the last Allied aircraft lost in World War II? Europe. Sorry. Part of me said it was the last Allied aircraft lost in Europe, but I might be making that up, probably. But let's just go with it. But yeah, really, really great aircraft. Obviously a flyer. The yellow on the cockpit, I know there's a lot of noise around that, but it's accurate. I think the only issue is it'll be from inside as well, because it's quite a bright colour. It will look quite garish to the eye, but a really nice looking model. The Lizzie, well, do you know what adds to the D-Day theme? For anybody who's seen the D-Day video I did last year in my man cave, which seems again like an eternity ago. It was one of the aircraft missing from the D-Day collection. So really good. I think that will improve our collections unanimously. And Gary Jukes will be over the moon with that, Mr. D-Day himself. For anybody who knows, they call him Zebra now because obviously he likes his black and white stripes. And the B25, I will be getting. Am I overly enamoured with it? Probably not. I'm not convinced it's going to sell very well, but it's a beautiful looking scheme. It's not one I'm particularly interested in, but being a collectorholic, I will be going after. So that's my thoughts on the next Corgi battery route. But also, just a bit of kudos to Corgi. They're bang on it in terms of their production again, not behind. So, you know, you think a couple of years ago, the moaning we would have around, oh, this was meant to be out in March and turns up in September, October. They're absolutely smashing out their, I was going to say quarterly catalogues, they're thirdly catalogues, if there's such a term. So they're bang on it in terms of production. Let's hope they're like that for the golden quarter, but we'll get to that in a minute. So HM poster, let's quickly scoot over this. I did share it on the Insta stories. Dwayne, we'll let you start on this. Is there any thoughts on the HM poster?
No, all I can say is I'm really happy Hobby Master listened to me and they made the George Bowling model. The George Bowling Spitfire was really missing. Like I saw that they did a Buck McNair Spitfire, so it was just about time that they introduced this part of history, because the Spitfire has a very big legacy um, in Malta, and I'm really glad that they decided to go ahead and make that model. And I was in fact talking to one actor. His name is Adam Drew. I don't know if you guys have seen this show of Ace Fighters.
Yeah.
It came as a docu-series. Yeah, so I
Yeah, he
spoke to
crashed into the sheep wall, wasn't it?
yeah. So I spoke to the actor and I tried to get some information with him and some guys from Malta, because as we all know, the Maltese Spitfires, they have a notorious paint scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't know what is the actual colors and stuff. So finally, like after going through a lot of reference books and talking to the actor, talking to some people on the island, they said it was the ultimate color was Mediterranean blue. So because the what do you say, the desert camouflage would stick out like a sore thumb.
Most of their fighting was overseas, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's a different blue to what they flew off the carriers with, because obviously they flew off with wash, didn't they?
Yes. So it's a completely it's like a bit of the FX color RAF blue, but with a mix of the Mediterranean blue. So I think HM should nail this model, and I'm also looking forward to the what do you say, the F-14 and the F-18 from the Top Gun movie. Obviously, they're getting away with paying them licensing fees, but it is what it is.
They got catch them first, right? And
Yeah.
just to add that, so obviously Corgi did the later Malta Berlin Spitfire with the silver spinner and that Mediterranean blue and sand scheme, which is a very sexy scheme, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's good but that shows you as well that they do listen to people giving their feedback as well. So Jamie's just added Vespa and the BF 110 looks good, and Top Gun Maverick 14 and 18 do look good. Yeah, completely agree. Jim, any thoughts on the Hobby Master one? You're not really that enamoured with 148s and stuff, are you?
No, not really. I don't really collect Hobby Masters, to be honest. I did have a quick look earlier on. I'm not to say Hobby Masters aren't good. I've always thought they are very good, but it's you go, when you go down one route, you start collecting one of them, and then you end up collecting more and more. And I just don't have the room, I'm afraid.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jim. No,
but I would recommend you get this George Bowling model. I think it's going to be one of their best Mark Vs. Definitely one.
It look nice, and the George Burling story is also absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
I haven't got one, but there's one thing that has always stuck out to me from recently from Hobby Master are the U2s. I think they do look mega. I've not actually seen one in person, but yeah, I'd probably consider getting one of them. But again, it's purely down to the room for me.
Yeah, no, because I mean, there's a lot of history. I mean, he was one of Canada's best aces and one of the best deflection shooters of the war for the Allies. So I think that's definitely a model worth having in your collection.
Yeah. So over to Sam. We lost him. He's back again, thankfully.
Yeah, back in the room.
Allies nearly got into his cave and took him then, but he's managed to fight him off very briefly. So Sam, your thoughts on the Hobby Master poster?
So yes, I I attempted to leave to get the poster up on my screen. Unfortunately, it kind of it kind of killed the whole killed the whole thing. But the one from talking from memory, the one that stood out for me that I wanted to talk about was the black chrome F-35C. They've already done a mirror finish for the F-22, I believe. So and that actually, to my eye, I know people can be very, very critical on forums. To my eye, that actually looked quite nice. So it'll be interesting to see what they can pull out of the bag for this one and how it actually turns out, especially considering it's been spotted only relatively recently in this scheme. And I think it actually looks pretty attractive. Now, of the three, you've got, so with HM, you've got the A, B, and C. The C actually looks the nicest of the three. I know there is criticism till the cows come home about the raised sort of lines on it, the bumps, the stealth pattern. I wouldn't know what you actually call it. I think the C is the best of the lot, and also just aesthetically from the point of view of the real aircraft. Obviously, everything's subjective in this instance, but I think the C just looks the best. It's really balanced with the larger wing, and so if they get the black chrome finish right, I think it'd be a surefire seller. Other than that, not really a whole amount that sort of interests me. It kind of seems a little bit samey as what's gone before. I mean, I'm only speaking for the 172 jets. Obviously, the George Bulling release is going to be of interest to some people. I don't really collect 148 World War II at all, so not really one for me. The U2, obviously, with the pods, the span, spur, whatever you call it, on top, absolutely brilliant. Is that, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark? They are leaving Fairford at some point, aren't they? Are they stopping that, or is that to continue? I think I saw something somewhere about.
Sure, to be honest with you.
I suppose it's something they might not necessarily advertise, but I think, yeah, because the U2 itself is set for retirement. Well, it's been set for retirement for decades, really. But I think the Air Force are kind of pushing for drones, I suppose. Yeah. I bought the first release of U2. I've since sold it, but that was an absolutely cracking model, and the size of the wingspan kind of blows you away a little bit at first. But yeah, really, really good. I'm just going to see if I can. I might need to leave and rejoin again. I'm just going to see if I can.
Oh, it sounds like he's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, you there? Oh, it looks like he's gone. Which sort of hands over to me slightly. I don't know whether we can add him back in because he seems to have frozen, which is slightly worrying. But so, I mean, my bit for me, I'm not a massive HM fan, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way because they're brilliant at what they do. But jets isn't really my thing. 148 isn't my thing, so that sort of rules me out. But when they get it right in World War II, I'm really over the moon with it. I mean, like, you know, I bet the BF1, the ME110 is not their finest mould in comparison to the Corgi, but I'm sure that's the first time they've done a desert one. A winter one. Yeah, and I'm certain that'll be something very, very different because the only equivalent in white is the half Corgi one, which is sort of half white. The one with the poo on the wings in terms of weathering, and of course you can get an IXO or an Atlas version in all white as well. Mm-hmm. So something very, very different. I think it will sell relatively decently. Let me try and see if I can add Sam back in. He's sent me a request, but he seems to be sitting in the corner still. So I'm not convinced we're going to be able to add him back in. Oh, he's gone. So maybe he will be able to come back. So. Yeah, I mean, the stuff in there will sell. The F-16 Thunderbirds, easy money. The 148 is lovely. Obviously the Berlin Spitfire and the other Desert Spitfire are nice with the filters on. So look, I think and the Mustang's nice as well. So look, I think it will sell. And of course, not forgetting the Tornado. The Tornado is gorgeous as well, with the all white tail. So yeah, I think it's a decent poster for HM, in all fairness. And of course, they knock out smaller runs, so they're able to do that. So, before we move on to, I was going to do latest editions to our collections, but I feel time is probably getting on, so we're going to skip that bit. Before we move on, Dwayne, as you're on the call, this is a bit of a surprise announcement for those who've not been on the Facebook page. So tell us about this B29 project.
Yeah.
What you can tell us.
Yeah. So at the moment, they're doing around 600 pieces of the Tejas, which is India's indigenous fighter for the Indian diecast market. So on the basis of that, if we are able to raise the numbers to a very sorted out position, we will go ahead with the B29. So I'm currently working as a bit of a consultant for this diecast company, and they've already reached out to Hobby Master. So Hobby Master's factory in Bangladesh will be taking up the project of this Tejas. And then perhaps once we get enough of interest, if this garners enough interest, we will definitely go ahead on the model. But before that, I will obviously be doing some more market research on the group concerning the price and whether people are okay with snap fit wings, because it's a very large model and we just need to make sure, like, it's going to be in a very nice box, and where collectors can, assemble it like perhaps a Marushin kit, those 1:48 Marushin kits that are basically die-cast kits, and even consider the option of what do you say, snap fit magnetic wings, basically for this model. So like, you don't have to screw it in or anything. So we're trying for that, and the first model will probably be based off the Alona Gay.
Yeah, good choice.
Yeah, because I just gave them all the technical drawings from Academy, like the Academy 1:72 model, because that's the best reference model at the moment to go ahead with.
There's plenty of options to do. I mean, the green version further down the line. I mean, let's be honest. When we think of B29, we think of Silva, and we think of Hiroshima, Nagasaki. We think of Fifi. We think of Doc.
Yeah.
There's so many.
So the model will definitely we'll try to make it look like this as much as possible. So that's the idea. But first we need to get like a really good number of sales on the Tejas, which is the Indian model. And once that is sorted out, then we can think about the global market. But definitely we've put the B29 as, like, priority on the priority list.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. And it's finally somebody's had the balls to do it, because all we've heard is excuses. I really thought that Shuko might have had a pitch at it after doing a brilliant job with the JU52 and the Connie, which are great models for anybody who hasn't got them in their collection. The Shuko Connie is absolutely outstanding, and my word, it is a unit, and it's going to be very similar in size to the B29. But if Shuko can do it, it can be done. So, but that's great to hear, Dwayne. Obviously, please keep us updated with how it goes. I certainly want to be involved if I can further down the line as well. But it's a great thing, and great for the hobby that we got that discussion, and it's reaching that stage where potentially we might go ahead with it, and that's great to hear. So, well, thanks for giving us that update. So we're going, rather than go on about latest additions to the collection, we're going to abandon idea. We're going to go on to the next Corgi catalogue, and just a quick flip round the circle. We start with Jim. Anything you'd like to see in the September to December catalogue, and anything you think might come? And you might have a bit of a insight, because you might have seen one or two people turn up at your place of work measuring all sorts of things. So if you're going to put you in trouble by mentioning it, don't do it. But is there anything you'd like to see in this September to December catalogue?
So I am very much sort of out of the game in terms of what's potential and what have you. To be honest, I mean, I do like the First World War models, and I would like to see the Shuttleworth Bristol fighter maybe at some point. I generally don't know if it is going to happen or not, but that would definitely be on my list at some point. But I'm not. I'm not too sure. Say I'm not very much in the game these days. But as Sam said earlier on, it won't happen. But I really would love to see a Corsair, a new tool Corsair come out at some point, as that really would be brilliant. It's needed, I think, and I think it would sell well. But yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. Brisbane would in the colours of Shuttleworth, which is 22 squadron or 20 squadron. I can't remember now off the top of my head. That would be really cool. I think there is a market for aircraft that are in that are operated, aircraft that are in schemes today that fly at air shows. I think there is a big market for
Absolutely.
it. Which, as mentioned earlier about Red Bull, obviously Dottie May is a flyer, and I know Corgi and various other diecast designers have done other models with current airworthy aircraft. But I think there is a big market for it, because when you see it in the flesh, you want it as a model. So yeah, I think that is something they definitely could look at going forward. But yeah, not much for me. I'll sit back and see what happens, and if I purchase, I purchase.
It's the best way, mate, to be honest with you. Otherwise, it's a very, very dark path. Just sort of adding to the Corsair, and someone I consider not an expert, but someone I thought was quite knowledgeable around aircraft. I didn't realise how different the front end of a later Mark Corsair is to an earlier Mark Corsair.
Yeah.
And how much sleeker it looks, and obviously seeing the French and the Red Bull example next to the Fighter Collections example really made me go, wow, actually that looks really slick. And being able to, I guess with like the Mark 9, being able to adjust or have the different front ends would be a very, very, very cool thing to have. I don't know how they'd do that. Of course, you'd need different fuselages to attach to the wings, but a slick 4-bladed Corsair would look absolutely pure sex to me. So, and great schemes to do, especially Korea. The all black one which is owned by Flying Legends now over in Germany. What a scheme that would be to knock out first time. But again, there's so many options, so many great options for a brilliant aircraft. So, Sam, any thoughts?
Well, I think. I suspect that they will open pre-orders on the ME410. Who knows? Possibly. I mean, it was announced quite some time ago, so it'd be nice to see the scheme. Obviously, my worry there is whether they can get the mottling right, because more or less every ME410 I've seen is mottled. Certainly on the fuselage, but yeah, I think we'll see that in terms of the Spitfire T9.
Yeah.
I think we could potentially have another one due. It'd be nice to get. I know they've just sort of released the Grace Spitfire in its wartime guise, but I know they can't do the Grace canopy, which is a bit of a shame. But
it's only the canopy that needs rejigging, isn't it? Don't think it's the fuselage, is it? Because I know Gary is trying to do a conversion on a Grey Nurse into the either ML407 or the New Zealand Spit, which is coming to these shores as well. It must be doable.
Yeah, I don't know, because I've got Grey Nurse. I don't know whether there's a bit of fuselage in between the two canopies that you'd need to potentially take out, because I think on the Step One. Are they separate, or are they one unit? I'm not
entirely sure, to be honest with you.
Without actually looking at it, I'm not too sure. I believe they're two separate units, so I think it would be a new case of a new fuselage. But yeah, I think another Beaufort would be quite nice. Malta one, probably. I think people are.
There was another one which was teased as a release before the Temperate Sea Scheme one come out, and it was announced on Corgi USA as a bomber one, and it never made the light of day. So I don't know if it was cancelled or if it was held back, but it would make more sense to hold it back after a Temperate Sea Scheme one to put it out. So I think you're probably right along them routes. I thought it'd be in the last catalogue, but there's enough gap between this and last year's catalogue, so it'd be one per year, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And then as I was about to actually mention the bloody 100th, Jamie has popped in the chat, 100 bomb group, Rosie Riveters,
Yes.
and FW190D. Now, with Masters of the Air, I think they could have, knowing full well when it was coming out, I feel like they could have tactically maybe timed that a bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, but even so, I think even now it would sell, because what you see is the Corgi B17s are commanding really, really high prices. And people they've released so many of them, people still can't get enough. Even the early ones, like that were in that sort of hideous apple green sort of colorway. I forget which one it was. It Sweet and Lovely?
Yeah, Sweet and Lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the one from the
Pacific set.
three,
Yeah.
the Pacific set as well.
That
Yeah,
Mary something.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Was that one of the Sights and Sounds ones?
No,
Zoot Suit.
Yeah, Miss Manuki.
That was
Okay, there you go. Well done, Jamie.
Yeah. But what the point I'm trying to make is even those which are obviously inaccurate are still going for like really, really big money. It just shows people's love for the B17, and I think if they are going to do a 100th bomb group one, I think that would just fly off the shelves. Anything else? I mean, it. 148 jet wise, I think we are due. I mean, we've had Phantoms, the Typhoons, and what have you galore. It would be nice to see another Lightning, I think. It's. I mean, I personally, I think they should have done the earlier marks, but another Lightning F6 could be a possibility. It's been a little bit of a while, and of course the last Phantom was the Falklands release, and they've got Blackjack, which is due to come out shortly. Whether they announce the D-Day Typhoon, I don't think they're going to really go through with that. Maybe for some time. If you think about how long it took to get Blackjack to market.
Yeah, I think it'll be next summer. I think we'll probably get a release in the summer catalogue next year, ready for RIAT.
Yeah. I think I in terms of the F1W190D, it's that'd be a new tooling, because that's out of the question. But possibly there could be a 190A. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I've just jotted down. Funny enough, we haven't had one of them for a while. It was a very meh release last time, wasn't it? A very bland release, the last one of that.
No, I would like, if they do happen to do an FW190, I would like to see it in the scheme of Auto Kittle, the second highest scoring FW190 ace.
No,
so
I would
like
to see the Flying Heritage, or the FHC version, the one they recovered from the forest, talking alongside the P47 to hijack it there, guys. But I think that is, now it's done its engine run this week, that would be a pure sex scheme for me. It's unusual, it's not grey, it's not bland, it's got real character to it, and it's a flyer. And in fact, dare I say, it was at the time the only BMW powered Focke-Wulf 190 to fly. Obviously, there's been a couple, I think, since then now, but that's a great looking scheme. A very, very sexy looking scheme. Sorry, Sam, just hijacking your bit there, mate.
No, not at all. Obviously, it's with these quarterly releases, it's kind of it's always kind of a bit difficult to say what's going to come out. But I mean, the Mosquito, I think whether they've decided that tooling's sort of had its day now, and they're going to go for a retool. I think people are really anchoring after one. I think they might rest the Spitfire now, the Mark 9 now, because I think we've had three of them. But just sort of looking, I'm sort of looking back at my cabinet for a bit of inspiration there. I mean, World War One. yeah, it's been a little bit. I mean, Jim mentioned earlier the Shuttleworth brisket, which I think would be a cracking addition. I really do. But there are plenty of like albatrosses and D7s. Again, you could knock out. It's been a couple of years since you had either of those. Obviously, they brought out the Spads last time around. I think the Camel is now maybe out of the running. I think they've accepted that particular tooling is maybe a bit past it to come out with a release. Again, they might do because they haven't had one for quite a while. But yeah, it's. I think that's pretty much it. And I'd love of course to hear your thoughts, Mark.
Yeah, of course. I'll go on to Dwayne first, and I'll get into my bits. Dwayne, any thoughts on it, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see these four models. Number one, of course, is the MA410, and I think they can do a really good job with the modeling because if anyone owns the Gunther G2 BF109, they've nailed the modeling on that model. So I do believe that they can do a good job on the MA410. Secondly, as I mentioned, the Focke-Wulf 190, but personally, I would prefer it in the auto kittle scheme because the 1:48 prices on that model for Hobby Master are through the roof. I can see them go for $350, and I don't have the space and the money, so I would definitely like this model in 1:72. Thirdly, I would like to see a model, since we're doing like a September, December catalog, I would like to see a George Preddy Chrysler Mighty the third model, because that I think is a P51 Mustang in which he had his most successful part of his career, as opposed to, just getting shot down on the 25th by Fratricide. So I would definitely like to see a better career Mustang of George Preddy. Uh, in the P51D Mustang. And then finally, last but not least, a Mark 14 Spitfire with a bubble top canopy if they can do it.
Yeah, I
No
can't see
pressure.
that just yet.
No
Yeah, I
pressure.
love
No
that,
pressure.
but I can't see that yet. I mean, Mitchell Gooding mentioned about bubble canopy Spitfire. I mean, we talk about 16s, a PR Spitfire. I've just done a conversion of the Mark 9 mold, which I'll happily show everyone. It's not perfect, but I'm very happy with it from my level of modelling. But I'll show you that further down the line. George Witt has also said about Jersey Jerk in the 172. For me, easy money doing that. But I'm speaking to Michael when the scheme was released. I know he's asked about bumping it up the list, but I guess there's a lot of the schemes and plans are all in place years down the line. And I guess maybe that's where they've got to look at being a bit more flexible, because it just allows the monopoly to go to Hobby Master, and they are very quick to smash things out, aren't they? So my thoughts, I put her down about the Spitfire TR9. I think we're due a second release. I'm not too sure what scheme it will be. Part of me says it might be the prototype Mark 8 or TR8 version, but Biggin Hill have got another couple of examples that they could easily pull on. So I think that's a potential. I think we're going to see our second Harrier. I don't know what scheme that will be. I've also said about a Phantom. I've been pushing Black Mike for a number of months now. I think Black Mike's an easy scheme to do. We look really eye-catching, and you can't really go wrong with an all-black finish, can you? I put about an RAF or 100 bomb group B17. We've been talking about the RAF B17 for years. We haven't had a Hurricane for a little while, so I don't know what Hurricane that will be. Whether that be a flyer.
Flying solo, perhaps, like that guy, what's his name? The Willy Wonka the author of Willy Wonka. Roald Dahl, yeah.
Roald Dahl,
perhaps
that'd be great.
perhaps a Roald Dahl Hurricane.
Yes,
yeah.
That'd be fantastic from the Crete Theatre or Greek Theatre.
Gladiators as well.
Yeah. So. But also, I'd like to see another early Hurricane from the Battle of France. I don't know how they would remod the obviously they'd have to do a new prop and hub. But I think that would be fantastic if they could do an early one of them. I've also said about Cobber Kane's Gladiator. I don't think that's been done, has it? Cobber Kane's Hurricane is done, but not his Gladiator. That'd be a good pairing if we talk about.
That's the scheme that Shuttleworth wears.
Yeah. What wears now?
Yeah.
Ah,
So they have done it, but
okay.
years.
I didn't realise that was Copper Cane, so well,
Yeah,
don't worry about that then.
I know.
John
Another one would be
Hemingway's Hurricane, Jace, is
Mhm.
local to me, so that'd be a great one to do ahead of its renovation or restoration, which is on way now. So anybody who don't know, I live in a place called Corringham, which is right down on the Thames Estuary. And John Hemingway, who's the last Battle of Britain pilot, his Hurricane come down in Fobbing, which is about a mile and a half away. So for me, that's quite a personal Hurricane. I'd love to see that made. I've also put a Sabre. We haven't seen the F-86 Sabre for a while. And we've got J.R. Baldwin's Lend-Lease, well, not Lend-Lease, he went to obviously fly in the US Air Force post-war with the Sabre Squadron in Korea, I believe it is. So it'd be a great accompaniment to the Typhoon. I said about the Hurricane. P-51, I mean, I'd love Jersey Jerk, but we haven't had a P-51 for a little while. So just an eye-catching scheme. I'm not, Detroit Mix was a brilliant release. I'd love to see a flyer like a Miss Helen, because Miss Helen has never technically been done. But I'd also love to see something like Francis Dell, which would be then the trio of the Duxford-based Mustangs. And I really think the 78 Fighter Group deserves a scheme in the new Corgi mould. And I finally put an ME-110 in a more attractive desert scheme. Whatever that looks like, I don't know, but just something that's just not one tone. Something that's a little bit later war with the green mixed into it, maybe. Something that's, I don't know if you've ever seen that iconic picture of the two ME-110s over the bay. I believe in Libya somewhere. There's two of them flying together. It's an iconic photo. And they've got like a mottled green onto the desert sand, and I think it looks fantastic. If they could do that, I'd be really over the moon. So that's my thoughts on the Corgi catalogue. So moving swiftly on, because I'm conscious we've been going an hour and 40 minutes, which is one hell of a ride, as always, as these things always seem to do. The next bit I'm going to talk about is this is just really me doing the talking, but I'm sure you guys will contribute, is of course, now on the 4th of September, I'll be doing the second ever Q&A with Michael Clegg and potentially David from Corgi, which is a big thing. It's a big thing for me. It's a big thing for the page, a big thing for DWC, and I guess also a big thing for the hobby, right? So for those who've been on the Facebook page, I've sort of put a bit of a statement down the other day about what I plan to do. So it's going to be in 3 parts. So the first part will be the questions that come from Instagram, Facebook, and the Model Hangar 3. I mean, I'm looking at the thread on Model Hangar 3 now, and I'm thinking, bloody hell, we're going to be there all night. So I'm going to have to cherry pick some of the things, and just to sort of lay down a bit of expectations that these guys, a bit like Jim, Sam, and Dwayne, are dedicating their time to come on this. I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. And of course, we have, the tornado is going to come up. We know that. We're going to talk about quality control. We know it's going to come up, but I need to make sure that without sounding like a bit of a weak presenter or someone who isn't challenging, because I certainly will be challenging, I want to make them not feel uncomfortable. So first of all, I'll send them those questions first, and they'll be able to tell me whether they can answer them or not, or whether there's an actual answer they can give which really viable. If I mean, I don't want them to overpromise, underdeliver, and all that, because it just makes them look bad. So the first section will be that bit amalgamated, and it'll probably take an hour. The second section, I'm going to go a bit out there, and because it will just be me, Michael, and David on the call, I'm going to have a free slot. So what I plan on doing is, anyone who's brave enough to come onto the call, I will add them onto the call, let them ask their question, get the answer, and then they can leave the call when we add the next person in. Just as a way of doing something a little bit different, because I think putting faces to names and stuff like that, I think it's a really cool thing to do in the hobby. I want everyone to have this. The whole idea of this page was to have a voice in the hobby and have a little bit of influence in terms of making things right. So like Dwayne's done with Hobby Master in terms of getting the George Berlin colours right, having that influence. So there is that sort of almost that ear within the hobby to listen to what us collectors want. So I will be adding people in, and of course it's all going to be all guns blazing after tonight. I've got to get my arse in gear because I've got 2 weeks off from work at the end of this week. So I'll get my arse in gear in terms of getting things in place and choosing who's going to go on now. May even have to do the call as the live as a 2-part thing, and maybe bring them back later in the year. I don't quite know, because there's a lot of information we want to get across. And then finally at the end we'll do a bit of a summary. Anybody who's been on the video who wants to maybe ask some ad lib questions, we'll throw some out there. You know, Michael is a really top man, and you know, I can't sing his praises high enough. You know, for him to go out of his way, outside of his work hours, to do this, I think it's incredible. And it's something that I want to be able to do on a more regular basis. They'll do their Christmas thing like they usually do, which I'd like to think they stole off of me by doing it in the first place, but I don't want to take too much credit. But I think it's a great thing for us all to be involved in. And of course, you know, ultimately, and I've said this so many times, that Corgi, for us to have a viable hobby, a successful hobby, we need Corgi to be all singing or dancing. We do not need to see Corgi vulnerable or in a position where things aren't going right and they are potentially, you know, as we know with many businesses now, you know, you put a foot wrong, you could put yourself at risk of going out of business. We want to have a successful hobby. We need a successful Corgi, and I'm sure everyone will agree on that. You know, yes, we've got different manufacturers who do brilliant jobs out there, like your Forces of Valley, your Hobby Master, your JC Wings, you know, potentially Gemini coming back into the frame as well. And of course, all the smaller ones like your Ixos and Altairs and Shukos and stuff. So I just want to make sure that we approach this in the most positive way that we can approach it. Yes, we need to be challenging, but it'd be great to see what sort of answers that Corgi have, what they're looking to do, looking at pushing it forward. So that will be on Wednesday, the 4th of September. It will be at 8 o'clock as ever. Like I said, we might have to break it in two if it becomes too long a thing, because you know, we need to cap it at 2 hours realistically. Please get your thoughts out there. If you see any of the questions thrown out on Facebook, Instagram, or even if you want to tag it onto the bottom of this video when we share it on Instagram, please do. And I'll try and collate as many things as we possibly can. So I'm really excited to be doing it. I'm really proud to be doing it because I think it's a big achievement for the page and myself, of course, being a collectorholic. So let's just approach it in the most positive manner we can approach it, and hopefully we can get a lot out of that. Which sort of leads really nicely into my last bit before we do a bit of a roundup at the end for anybody who wants to add any bits to it. This tonight will be our 1000th post on the DWC Instagram page. Now, I brought it over to Instagram during the COVID lockdown. There's a bit of a way of keeping busy, keeping the mind flowing and taking away the stresses of, you know, I weren't lucky to be furloughed like a lot of the population. I actually had to go into work every day and put myself at risk, put my family at risk by going into work as well. And it was a way of just unwinding, coming back, trying to forget about the crap that was going on in the world. Well, 4 years later, we've just reached 1,000 posts across Instagram, which is an incredible achievement. Something I'm very, very proud of. You know, something I do as a hobby. You know, I do put a lot of hours into this, and they were paid for it. You know, occasionally get the odd freebie, and right, you know, happily, you know, I'm very happy to admit that every now and then. But just want to say a massive thanks to everybody who's participated in these live videos, including the three gentlemen on tonight and all the people who have been on over the years when we started going a bit out of the box and doing this. Everybody who's participated on the Facebook pages, who shared all their collections with us, people who are positive and encouraging and knowledgeable. You know, without you guys, we wouldn't have a hobby, right? You know, we're the ones who go out and spend our hard-earned cash when we're not paying for mortgages and God knows what else as well, and you know, cost of living crisis. Look, I just want to say a big thank you for all your support, because you know, like I said, we wouldn't do this without you. You know, massive thanks to Dan, who obviously helps run the page, Gary, who's been very naughty and made me spend loads of money on airbrushes and paints and all sorts. Now I'm going down the code free route. No, so many people to thank. I think I did a bit of a waffling post on Facebook a few weeks back in an emotional state, but I really mean it. You know, it's great to be doing stuff like this, and you know, you guys, you know, I talk about my time, I enjoy it, but everybody adds time to this. You know, Jim has had a long day at work and come on. Sam's had a long day at work. You know, it's 1 o'clock in the morning over in Mumbai at the moment. It's 2 o'clock in the morning over in Mumbai. You know, you've got Christian getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning in Australia to come on there. You had Harry, who just come on late at night in America. It's an international affair, and you know, it's brilliant. I've made lots of friends through this hobby, and long may it continue. So I just want to say, like, a massive thank you for all your support over the last probably about 8 years, been running the page from its infancy as the Corgi Diecast Collectors page to what it is now in terms of DWC. So just a bit of a love post, really. Thank you for all your support. Please keep contributing. All of you, you know, are really valid. It's great to, like I said, make extra friends. You know, when I go to air shows, see people who are on the page, and yes, I've encouraged people to spend lots of money as well, which, you know, Alice is probably in the background, arms folded behind Jim, going, "Don't you dare go and buy that new Corgi B25." No, it's probably cost me my marriage, in all fairness, but so be it. I mean, it was the right choice, wasn't it? Look, now, cheers, guys. I just want to say a massive thank you. Look, before I just sort of say thanks to the three lads. Lads, anything you want to add before the end, before we wrap up the call?
I'll see you, hopefully you and Dan in October with Major Cabo Gunderson, the F-22 demo team pilot.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
he's trying to get some time free to come on this platform. So, and
Fantastic.
he's given me a positive response. I have him on WhatsApp, so I messaged him. He's like, he'll have more time in October right now because he's a corporate pilot right now. He's on the reserve list with the USAF at the moment. But I'll definitely be back for an episode in October, and luckily I'll be in the same time zone. I'll be moving from India in September. Hopefully.
What to the UK?
No, close. Ireland.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks, Dwayne. That's really kind of you sorting that out, mate. That'd be great. If we could get him to join mid-flight over the Atlantic whilst at the controls of an Airbus, that would be more of a coup, wouldn't it?
Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. But he would be there on land. I mean,
yeah, I think that's
his full capacity. Yeah. And I mean, he has a good following, or almost 185,000 followers. So, like, you know, maybe get some followers to this page also, and maybe new fans.
Absolutely, that'd be brilliant. Thank you, Dwayne. So, Sam, anything from you, mate?
Yeah. Firstly, thank you, Jim and Dwayne, for joining us tonight, and of course, Mark, for hosting. And also, mate, everything you do for the page. It's great that Corgi are coming back to do this Q&A. You know, back into the line of fire, as it were. But yeah, it should be really, really positive. I know for a fact that Michael's passion for aviation, you know, really shines through in everything that he does, and he really, really wants Corgi to succeed as a brand and to keep making you know, these models as wonderful as they possibly can be, which is, you know, certainly commendable that they've got someone like that who's so passionate about it. So yeah, it's all great to see, and yeah, it's been great tonight as well. So cheers, thank you very much.
No, cheers, Sam. Thanks, mate. Jim, over to you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you all for the warm welcome. I don't often do this sort of thing, to be honest with you. It's not really my cup of tea. I know Mark kept pestering me, and I gave in eventually. But I've enjoyed it. I'm not really much in the diecast game, so to speak, anymore. But it's been really interesting hearing all of your views on the industry at the moment, and what could potentially happen in the future. The only thing from me is, basically, if you haven't got anything to do this Sunday, why don't you pop down to Shuttleworth for our family air show? So it's on Sunday, the 11th of August. It's as well as a wide variety of collection aircraft. We'll have the Spitfire Mark 14 RN201, the Norwegian Historic Squadron's Vampire, which, as I say, will be flying with the Comet, and we've also got the Lockheed Electra from Fighter Aviation Engineering, which will be flying with our Lysander and Anson in a sort of spies tribute, amongst many other things, aerobatic aircraft and what have you. So yeah, that's the only other thing I've got to say.
Brilliant. Look, again, just to re-emphasise that, thank you for all who's tuned in and watched. Massive thank you to, obviously, Dwayne over in Mumbai at 2 o'clock in the morning for joining, obviously, late on. Sam, thank you, obviously, for coming on. I can't believe I've not included you in this. It's just shocking. And I can only apologise.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back, and it's good to have you back, and I need to do more of this. But finally, obviously, just a bit of a shout out to Jim. I think, you know, the work you're doing over at Shuttleworth, mate, is absolutely incredible. And I know I put on Facebook the other day, you deserve the Godlike Genius Award for 2024 for the work you're doing. Look, get down there and support Jim. You know, it's a brilliant, brilliant venue with some amazing things going on. And like I said, he's, dare I say it, and it's maybe blowing a bit too much smoke up his backside, but maybe he's adding something very different to the aviation scene down at Old Warden. And he's showing a lot of airshow organisers that things can be different and they can be dynamic and they can be a bit more interesting. And we can make these old planes really stand out by putting some really unique formations together that really sort of etch far into the memory. So well done, Jim. Also, thank Alice for me for allowing you to spend 2 hours of a night that you very seldom get time to spend together to come on and talk about old airplanes and models, dare I say toys as well. So obviously send her my love as well. Look, guys, thanks very much for watching. I'll share this on the page, and of course I'll put it onto YouTube so it's there forevermore. Please play a part on the Corgi Q&A. I want everybody, where possible, to try and do it. If it means we do a whole Q&A where people are on the call asking questions, then so be it. And then we do a separate one if Michael can fit one in. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a lovely rest of the week. The weather is set fair in the UK anyhow, at least. I'm on holiday from Friday. Lovely jubbly. Thanks, guys. Have a lovely evening and speak to you soon. Cheers.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Bye.